Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst, Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi, our second shir for the day. We're located in Yerushalayim, near Kodesh, not too far from the central bus station. Please walk on over, take a bus, drive. If you're flying in from Furst, please join us. We'd love to have you participate in our shirim. We're now learning Berura, getting ready to perform, close to almost 2 weeks away. And Dini Sudas Purim in Kafrei Society Hey. And we're learning in Siv Base. Let's just review the Mechaber, and let's look at the Ramah. We're going to do a Birolacha, and we'll be continuing with the Berura as well. Yeah, any volunteers to read? No?
Chayav inish levasume befuraya ad lo yada ben ar haman var morfai. Person has to drink enough to not know the difference between ar haman and bar morfai.
Okay, okay, good. Let's stop here and do the Mishna.
Okay. Ben ar haman sheze mapala rishana shenital nikma rabba mimenu. Because this was the first. The first downfall. Downfall
is like a downfall.
That was talked about.
Okay, so now you have to understand what this means exactly. Or Haman, that Haman became cursed, right? The Mishna Berura here is saying that even in preface to the battles which took place, the war which took place 11 months later, Haman was originally killed, right, soon after he made the poor. He made the poor in Adar, and then Mordecai realized what was going on. He told Esther. Esther said what they have to do in terms of the fast. She had the first Mishna with Achashverosh, then called for the second Mishna with Haman and Achashverosh, and at the end of that second Mishna, which took place in Pesach, the first day Pesach, then Haman was hung. So that's the beginning
of the downfall.
Yeah, that was right. Right? Haman became cursed. That's the first thing we have to realize.
They do like more, and something more than this, something good more than this, that the greatness of Mordecai. Shebarcho Kadosh Baruch Hu She'ala Lemala Rosh, that Hashem bless him, we should go to the top.
Okay, so now we have to realize that there's a basic question: what's a greater toiva? That our enemy was destroyed, or that our hero was elevated? It's a basic question. When you have a choice, if you have a choice of two things, right? Should we pray that our enemy be destroyed, or that our hero be given grandeur and elevation?
And for sure, before he starts getting drunk, you should thank Hashem for both of these things.
You see, the
two good things.
Right. So the lashon of the Mishna Berura is not before he starts drinking, right?
What was drinking?
Before he gets concussion.
The person who's chayiv, he needs to
before he gets drunk.
Before he gets drunk. Meaning, you're saying not before you start drinking.
While you're drinking.
Right. So
I want to know who remembers the good when somebody starts drinking.
What do you mean?
Once you start drinking, you think that people are starting to think of Purim. There's nothing about getting drunk. I mean, once you're drinking, you're drinking. When you start, I'm going to drink. Well, before you start, it's always the Shem Shema. I got this halacha, the halacha. Once you start drinking, you're not halacha. You just keep drinking. You just don't stop.
The question is, why is that? Why should a person, when he's on a roll, why should continue to drink? That's something which to some extent, and before should explain a bit that there's such a thing. There's a power of wine that it gives a person a good feeling to a certain extent, and they get this false sense of security that the more they drink, the better they're going to feel.
100%.
Right? That the more, because they're feeling good now, another drink will make me feel better. Right? And another drink will make me feel even better. Right? But then what they realize is there's gonna be a, as they say,
Okay, so
there's
you're
a-
No, Rebbe, that's what they don't realize.
no, they don't, of course they don't realize, that's right, they don't realize it.
They
But the
just keep
fact
going up,
is,
up, and when they
there's a
start
law
going
of
down,
diminishing
yeah.
returns.
That's right.
Meaning you can start, you can drink, and you can drink, and you can drink, and you can, if you're really trying to do it and you're able to do it properly, you try and reach a level, you try and live, you know, just like an airplane, you have to get a lot there to take off. And then and you know, you have to use a lot of fuel when you're taking off. But then if you can level off at a certain altitude,
That's not what the kasher do. They're trying to say you drink to a level and stop. That's
I didn't-
not what.
no,
That's
no,
not
that's
what
it.
we're
I
saying.
didn't hear
here.
anything about
We're
leveling
saying,
off.
We're saying here, you know, keep going until you get there. Once you're there, you don't know what you're doing anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's what we're saying.
you get to the mood.
Once you
Hey,
realize
that's
you don't
fine.
know where you are, then you
so
stop.
we can have to. That's what we have to try and understand. What does it mean? What does it mean to get drunk? Because what does it mean to get drunk?
You see, there's another way of learning it. Ad de lo yada.
Yeah.
Until you get to that
Ad
point.
below B'Klav.
That's right.
They'll explain
That's
it.
right.
Ad below. I mean, up until that
So,
point. Up
so-
until
but
that
the
point.
problem is once you get to that point, it's freedom. You can't stop.
All right. Look, it's something which we have a few more weeks to discuss and then to understand properly. But look, the key again. If you look at the one second. Go over again the first Berura. Chayav Inish, okay? Chayav Inish. We were discussing this yesterday. We didn't really finish it up. Chayav Inish. Go ahead.
Ve'im
Obligated.
tomar.
Again, the verse is Chayav, obligated.
Chayav.
Obligated.
Chayav inish. Obligated you. Ve'im tomar heach yechai. If you want to say why were they obligated? Mashe niskar batorah of the Nevi'im bekam mekomot hashichut the michshol god. Because in the Torah we say and in the Nevi'im we talk a lot about how the drinking is a bad thing. It's a very bad thing. Ve'yesh lomar mipeneh shekol hanisim shenasu leYisrael b'meach hashor ayu Mishna. We have to say that the reason the rabbi said to drink is because all the nisim, all the miracles that happened in the time of Achashverosh because of Mishna parties, drinking parties. Give it Chilani Reda Vashi, the first time it started with Vashi, Aide Mishna Uva Esther, and then because of her, Esther came. V'cheninyan Haman Umapalto, and also concerning Haman and his disgrace. Aya Al Yedei Mishna was also because of party. V'lechen Chivu Chamin Lishtaka, therefore the Chalam said Yishkita. Ad Kedei Sheyeh Niskar Hanes Agadol B'Shtiya Hayayin. So to remember the big miracle that happened because of wine.
Now, so you have to realize ad kedei, so much so you have to be stacker. You have to drink so much so until you nizkar hanes agadol b'shtiyas hayayin, until you reach until you recall, you remember, you commemorate the tremendous miracle that there is in drinking of wine. So I mean, go around and ask people next 2 weeks or so, what kind of miracle is there in the drinking of wine? Right? Now, does that mean the miracles that took place I'll tell you, well, look, Esther used wine, she got Haman drunk, right? Achashverosh got himself drunk and he killed out his queen, right? So you see that that wine is used for it's a very powerful catalyst, right? That wine does things that it makes things happen that normally won't happen, right? That Haman should get hung up on the gallows that he himself built for Mordecai. How did that happen? Wine, right? That the king should kill his own queen. How did that happen? Wine, right? So how is this a question? How is this an answer to the question?
It says that Mikol Malcolm Zell mitzvah l'laka. This is a mitzvah,
Oh.
and not to go back on it, not to just make it light of it.
Well, no,
Yeah, no mitzvah.
it means lo laki. I mean, it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to do, but it's not maki. I mean,
It
you don't.
doesn't hold you back.
I mean, it doesn't say if you didn't get drunk on Purim, that means you still
Celebrated Purim.
you still celebrate Purim, right? In contrast, let's say he didn't hear the Megillah.
Right.
He didn't hear Megillah on Purim, so he's in pretty bad shape. He missed out one of the primary aspects of Purim. Like you have to, everyone's obligated to hear the Megillah being read, right? That's Persa Minisa, to make mention of and advertise and publicize all the miracles Hashem did. But there's a special added something which Chazal required us to do, right? To drink, right? And as it's coming here, it seems to be a pretty serious drinking session they're obligating us to do, right? So the first thing we have to remember is shomer mitzvah lo yada davara. A person's shomer mitzvah, he won't know of a bad thing. Not the Gemara says the person's going to be shomer mitzvah. I mean, if he does the mitzvah properly, the way it's supposed to be, lo yada davara.
So the second one, it said on the second view,
Yeah.
the second is
Okay, well let's see the second. Let's see. Look at we'll say Lashon Amiri. Go to the
Lashon Amiri, לא ידע לושן אמרי. חייב אדם להרבות בשמחה ביום זה ובאכילה ושתייה עד שלא יחסר שום דבר.
So he has to, so what does he have to have in this in Purim?
Kotel.
Everything.
Simcha, right? The Yom Zeh, he has to be
Drinking and eating and drinking.
through eating and
And
drinking,
not to miss anything.
right?
And
And
Mikol,
he should feel that he should feel like he's not lacking anything, right? And that, by the way, the Maharal Neprod mentions this clearly in his explanation of what Esther did with Haman in the second Mishna. That wine, see, that feeling of euphoria that a person gets from drinking wine, that's a false sense of perfection. I mean, he feels himself to be perfect. If you ask a person why you like drinking so much, they won't be able to tell you exactly. But what their feeling is that they're not lacking anything, right? They forget their troubles, right? Ask anybody, he forgets his troubles. He's drowning his troubles in his drink, right? He forgets his troubles. How can it be? He's going to wake up, he's got more troubles than he had started with when he started his drinking session, right? Because the wine, that allows a person somehow, right, that he forgets his kasronis, he forgets his imperfections, he forgets what he's lacking, right? So that's part of the Simcha Hayom, that we're supposed to be on Purim so perfect in our appreciation for what HaKadosh Baruch was giving us. We're not supposed to feel like we're lacking anything. Right? That's what we're supposed to try and achieve, that we're not lacking anything. Because in fact, if we realize the truth, in fact, none of us are lacking anything. Right? Because whatever Hashem's giving us is exactly what we need, exactly what's perfectly good for us. Right? And if we think we're lacking something, because we don't really understand, as we were speaking in the previous year, we don't really understand the hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't really understand properly, and again, it's maybe impossible to understand properly, completely, the true divine intervention that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for each and every one of us. But if we realize the basic principle is that whatever we have, whatever situation we have, is perfectly, absolutely, wonderfully what Hashem wants for us, right? So we're not lacking anything. There's a whole separate question. So why should a person do anything? Why should he try and change his situation? Why should he pray for anything then? If everything that is happening to a person is exactly perfect and the will of Hashem, so why should I pray to change anything? But that's a separate thing. We can do it at another time. I'm not going to go into that. But wine gives you this full sense of perfection. So therefore, what Esther accomplished with Haman at the second Mishna, when he was drinking along with Ahasuerus and Esther, he was already on a very big high, even though he didn't want to come to the second Mishna, right? Remember what happened previously.
he had
to be dragged to guard because when they told him if Mordecai's on the rise, right? If Mordecai was the one you were leading around through the streets, that means you're on the down. Because that's the way it goes. Edom is up high, then Yidden are not that way. If Yidden are high, then Edom's down low. Amalek is Edom, Pesach. So he was on the downfall. So nevertheless, he had some hopes, perhaps, that whatever was going on with Ahasuerus and Esther, he should be able to do what he still wants to do, is hang Mordecai on the gallows that he prepared. And he was going into this Mishna. So by drinking, he was getting this self sense of and his full sense of perfection. And what's the greatest perfection an Amalek could have? Amalek, the whole tachlis in life is to Has v'Sholom do the worst to the Jewish people, Has v'Sholom. So he was getting ready to feel his perfection, and his perfection was to fulfill his wish to have Mordecai up on those gallows, right? So he felt this full sense of perfection through the wine, and that's when Esther could, at that particular point, expose him, because he was most vulnerable. When a person who's not perfect is feeling perfect, he's most vulnerable. That's why if a person's been drinking and he feels perfect, but really he's far from perfect, right? He's most vulnerable at that point. So that's the part of the nace that happens with wine, because just as Achashverosh, years before, when he killed out Vashti, right, he was on the high of the wine, right? And he said, well, let's bring the queen in, right? And at that point, because she said no, he was in a situation where he could have said he's going to kill off the queen, because he felt perfection. And really the perfection that he had to be king came through Vashti. She was really the nobility in the family. He was just a person who took over, a military coup or whatever it was. But she was the nobility of the family. So he was feeling this full sense of perfection, and therefore the wine allowed him to eliminate her. Right? He probably would never have done that if he was sober. But the full sense of perfection that what the wine gave him, that's what led to Vashti's downfall, and on the other hand to Esther's entrance as queen. Right? So you have this full sense of perfection that the wine, the euphoria that the wine creates. Right? That's what is beneficial for us to Mekayim our mitzvah of Purim, because we want to feel perfect on Purim, that we have everything. Nevertheless, even though we want to feel that we have everything, lo chaser davar, the power of Purim, right? The power of Purim, of the prayer of Purim is so great, right? That we have to remember there's a lot to pray for that day. Right? Let's continue.
ומכל מקום אינו מצום להשתכר ולהפחית עצמנו מתוך השמחה. In any case, you're not obligatory to get drunk, and what's להפחית?
To degrade himself.
To degrade himself. Because of the party.
Because people, unfortunately, they get themselves into certain situations where they're groveling in the mess. The mess. No, you see it. It's like it's terrible. They make big mistakes.
שלא נסתובב מהשמחה של הוללות ושל שטות, because we're not commanded in the simcha of stupidities. Let's just say.
Like hololus is like wildness, and
stupidity.
shtus is foolishness, right? We're not supposed to. You want to make jokes, you want to be funny, you want to have a good time. That's good, but you're not supposed to get wild and idiotic, right?
אלא בשמחה של תענוג שהגיע מתוך אהבת השם. A simcha of relaxation and enjoyment that you come to love Hashem. Hashem Yisbarach.
Shemitocha, right? La'avas Hashem Yisbarach. Meaning that tanug, you're supposed to feel a joy, right? A simcha shel tainug. This is a great, tremendous expression. What's simcha shel tainug? You have a simcha.
Joy.
Yeah, but you have by Shabbos you have a halacha of Oinik Shabbos. There's no din of Simchas Shabbos. On Yom Tif you have Simchas. Simcha, you don't have Oinik. But on Purim you got both.
Wow. That's very nice.
Of course, Simcha Shel Tainug. Purim is greater than Shabbos and greater than Yom Tif.
Wow.
And Yom Kippur, Tainug is pleasure.
And pleasure.
Pleasure, enjoyment.
Happiness of pleasure.
The Adah.
You sure you want to say something?
Purim is higher than Yom Kippur, right?
That's another thing, right? Purim is, we say Yom Kippur is Kippurim. That's a whole other story. That's true, and then there's a lot to talk about there as well. See, what we do, everything that we have to do, it's easier to fast lishma than to eat and drink lishma, right? To fast lishma, so why are you fasting? I want to eat. Why am I fasting? Hashem tells me I have to do it. Why else would I be fasting? Why I want to be on a diet? All right, fine, but there are a few people are going to be saying I'm fasting on Yom Kippur because I want to be on a diet. The fasting is it's a mitzvah to fast. Tisha B'av, it's a mitzvah to fast. So that's what I'm doing. So you're doing lishma, but to eat and drink lishma. The Maisa with the Rebbe. I don't know which Rebbe it was, but so he's easy. At the Tish, he's making brachas and this and that. So one of the Hasidim he sees, the Hasidim is looking at him, So he says, the Rebbe says to the Chassid, I know what you're thinking. Right? I know what you're thinking. You think I'm making all these, having all these good things because I like to eat and drink so much. He says, no, I'm eating all these good things. I want to make brachas, right? It's easy. It's hard. It's not so easy to eat lishma, right? Eat lishma and to drink lishma. That's a very difficult thing because you're involving the pleasures of eating and drinking. And when a person's pleasures are involved, so it's very easy. It's not so easy, rather, to separate himself from his own desire for pleasure. Right?
So does that mean that you have the same mitzvah on Purim as you do on Yom Tov to eat meat?
Yes, definitely so. Yeah, there's a specific. Many of the Mephoshim speak about. We'll see if the Mishnah goes into details. That they should have basar, should wash. Lechem should be bread. Yeah, lechem should have wash. You should have, and you should have everything you can possibly. We learned the other day. We said in Sharcha, you're not supposed to even make a zeichel korban. Normally, if you're having a suda, make some kind of zeichel korban, leave an empty plate, an empty spot. And so in Purim, the Mura Katsina says, no, because you're supposed to fulfill the mitzvah of the you have to be happy. That's what it said, is simka shel tainug. And so you can't be reminded of the korban at that time. Yeah, so we see simka shel tainug. So there's a advantage of Purim over even Shabbos and Yom Tov. Yeah.
הניסים של הסמנו, בניסים דודי שם נפרס, ואין שם מה שמבאר דברי הגמרא, וזה לשון החיידה. See there what it says, explaining the Gemara, this is the language of the Chayada.
Right, so that's the Meiri. Up until now, with the first part of this Pir Halacha was the Meiri. The Meiri is making a comment on the Gemara and Megillah, Dav Zayin Amid Beis Divra Maskal Chayiv. So if you take a look further, if you want to see more about this Meiri, take a look at the Meiri's commentary on the Ayin Sham Mashin Mivara Divri Gemara. He's going to explain more details about the Gemara. Now that the Meiri's a Rishon, lived about I'll tell you how many years ago he lived. Chart here. Chart here. Achronim and Shoinim. Yeah. Some people like to know who we're referring to here.
Who's after Rambam?
I'll tell one second, let me find it here. Meiri was lived after the Rashba, before the Rosh. He would live in the same time as the Rosh, which was just before the Torah. The Torah was the son of the Rosh. And you wanted to know before or after?
Was he after Rambam?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Rambam was, I'll tell you, Rambam was about, maybe about 100 years before. Maybe about 100 years before.
Rambam was before.
Rambam was before, right. So Meiri was one of the later Rishonim.
He was about 700 years ago.
The Meiri?
Yeah.
Meiri was basically, bring down here in our dates about 1300, which is about 700 years ago. Yeah, the Rambam, in contrast, was 800, 900. Yeah, 800, more about 800.
800.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, now the Chayadim lived about 300 years ago. So about 300 years ago.
Recent youngster.
Yeah, so around a little bit generation before the Vilna Gaon, more or less. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now the Mishnah Berura and the Berura quotes the Chayad. וזה לשון חייב.
כיוון שכל הנס היה על ידי יין, because the whole miracle was because of wine. לכן חייבו החכם להשתכר. Therefore the Chacham said she get drunk. ולפחות לשתות יותר מרגל. She at least drink a little more than regular.
Now, so he's, you see, the nace was because of the wine. Therefore, we have to get drunk, and at least minimally, right? We should drink more than we're usual. So that's not so hard for most of us. Except that on Shabbos and then Yom Tov we drink a kos or two. So in general, we don't have to drink so much to do that. Okay, why?
כדי לזכור נס הגדול, to remember the big miracle. ואמנם הידיעה באשמה שיזל זה, but if somebody knows that he's going to be disgraced, אז במצווה מן המצווה בנטילת ידיים וברכה ברכת המזון, או שלא יפעל מנחה ומערב. In other words, if he knows that he's going to get drunk, it's going to get to the point where he's not going to be able to do netilat yadayim, make a motzi, birkat hamazon, dam mincha, dam mar, or she'inhag b'kaliktor, so he's going to act in a light-headed way.
You'd be silly, right? And silly in a not a funny way. A person can be jolly and funny, right? But to be silly in a non-funny way, right?
Better should not get drunk, and all his actions should be for Hashem. Ad kan lashon, until here.
That's unquote. Ad kan lashon. That's quote of the Chai Odom. So you have the Chai Odom saying that a person has to know himself.
He's a faithless wife.
What's it?
Wait, does this include women? You have to get drunk?
Women do not get drunk. Women don't drink.
They clean up afterwards.
But then women
Or
can
during.
Women can drink.
They
Just
can
not
drink. They're not obligated, no. They're not obligated.
Wait a minute, how do we see that? Because the Esther was caught in this, so she is.
Right.
Maybe it says because have initiative a man.
They're medayik.
Certainly was involved with wine.
Yeah, for sure.
They wouldn't in this like the men were. So
Right.
maybe they should get.
So why are they not included?
Yeah.
Why are they not a chayiv?
Have initiative a man.
Right.
It's not a man, not a woman.
Right.
Initiative is a man, right?
Inish is a man, right? That's the lashon, right? You're not chayiv. We're not going to say chayiv. Assuming everyone is chayiv, everyone's obligated. Assuming Purim. No, inish, a person, and also the madayek. Inish is a special expression. Inish is a special expression. I have to look it up and see how they got the grouping that they make on the chayiv inish. That.
So they shouldn't drink anything.
They can drink something. They
Make
can
the
drink.
bracha. They make the bracha.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they want
But why are they not obligated? Since we just established that they were
It's not the derek that they should drink. It's not their derek that they should drink. You have all these problems by men. Imagine if the women were getting drinking.
But is it Derek or a man's drink?
That's the end of the husbands.
Yeah.
Is it Derek or is it a man should drink?
Well, he says if you're going to
No,
get to such a point,
in general, you see in
it
general.
says you're not to drink. You get to a point where you're
It's
going
not
to act
Derek
like
or
a
it's for
fool.
either to drink.
Yeah, well, we're not to be mazalzel. You can't be mazalzel on mitzvahs. It can't become silly or overly to the extreme. But here you have this mitzvah. Take a look here in the actually we're right in the middle of the Mishna Berura here. Let's pick up again Sivkat and Dalid in the Mishna Berura. Let's go.
From the beginning?
Yeah, from the beginning we'll get the running start.
Shezem apala rishona shenital ka nekama rabba mimenu, because this is the beginning of the downfall.
That Kadosh Baruch Hu took a great vengeance out of it. Took his vengeance out on the Kamen Rabba Mimeno. Hashem took vengeance out upon Haman.
The Otova Yetera Mizeh Gedulat Mordechai. Another great thing, even greater, was the greatness of Mordechai that's getting up there. Shebarcha Kadosh Baruch Hu She'ala Lemala Rosh. That Hashem blessed him, that he went up to the head. And before he suddenly starts getting drunk, he has to thank Hashem for these two things. That a person should not stop giving praise because of the simcha. until he doesn't know he doesn't understand the difference between one and the other.
So again, look, now when we're in a sober state of mind over here, we have to try and understand it, because if you don't understand this when you're sober, how are you supposed to understand this when you're drunk? Right, so what does this mean, Bechla? What does this mean?
As long as you're getting drunk or simple, it's okay. But once you're getting past that stage, it's over.
Yeah, okay, no, but the question is like this. See, what you mentioned here, I see two things happening over here. Number one is, the drinking is, first of all, because the nace happened through wine, number one. Number two, the drinking is part of the Simcha Shal, what with the Berura, the Simcha Shal time, that's the Miri's Lashon, the Simcha Shal Tainig, that you have to reach on Purim. Okay, you have to reach that on Purim. So if you have those two reasons, why do you have this other thing in Haman and Mordechai? What's Haman and Mordechai have to do with all this here?
They're the main characters.
You're right, but let's look.
You have to have a kamut. You on Shabbos, sometimes you drink a bottle and a half. And I drink half a cup, half a glass.
Right.
So me, it doesn't bother you the bottle and a half, and me bothers me the half a glass. So you have to have a kamut.
It's a shear. It's a shear. It's a shear. You have to have a shear. Meaning.
But there's a stira here.
Yeah.
You have, on one hand, you have a statement that you should not get drunk. On the other hand, you have a statement that you should get drunk.
No, first is that you got it backwards. First is statement you should get drunk. Then, if you're going to be mezalzel, then don't get drunk. It doesn't say the way you're saying. You're saying it backwards. First, there's a mitzvah getting drunk. If you're going to get to a point where you're going to be mezalzel, so then don't get drunk and do the mitzvahs of the day. There's a big difference in the way of how you say it.
So okay, so
I stick with the way I say it.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. So first of all, what Yechiel said was very good. Meaning, for example, like on Pesach, you have to have dollar crisis. So, because I'll say you have to have 4 cups. 4 cups. This is what we discussed in the building yesterday. Why didn't it say you have to have 4 cups on Purim? They could have told us, exactly what we have to do, because I weren't afraid of telling us exactly what you have to do, how much matzah you have to eat, how much more you have to eat, how much wine you have to drink. So
It's individual. It's individual.
Oh, so why? So the question: why is it individual? Meaning on Pesach, you didn't tell us it's individual, right? They said you drink 4 cups, you drink 4 cups, you drink 4, I drink 4 cups. Everyone drinks 4 cups, right? Here they said no, you got to drink, right? And Yellow Yada until you don't recognize the differences that we're discussing now between Haman and Mordechai. This is the shir on Purim. By Purim, as you said very well, on Purim they want you to reach this state of euphoria, right? Right? Again, not that you should be mazal, because also in part of that criteria, that shir, is that you should reach that state of euphoria and nevertheless not be mazal, so not to get stupidly silly, right? Obviously not to throw up. Obviously not to mizalzel, Netilas Yadayim, Mincha, Maya, or any other birkas or any of the mitzvahs you have. That's your shear. You have a lower limit and an upper limit, right? And if a person is not going to do that, he's going to drink too much, right? So he's also not fulfilling his mitzvah.
But the reason I say it's a stira is because it would seem to me that, by definition, if you're so drunk that you can't tell the difference between Mordechai and Haman, then you are mezalzel.
Oh, so again, the difference between Haman and Mordechai is not what we know. Anybody, even a drunk, can probably tell you that, right? Mordechai is a Jew, right? And Haman is an Amaleki, right? Even a drunk could probably tell you that. But what's the Lashon of the Mishna Berura? What's he telling you to do? What's he telling you have to, right? Al Cain, right? Otov Yisera Shemizeh Godlas Mordechai. There's the greatness of Mordechai. Sheberechu Yakadosh Baruch Hu U'She'ala Mala L'Rosh Vehine Kodim Shenistaker Nitin Bavadai Todah L'Shem Yisborach Al Shtei Atoivos. A person before he gets drunk can definitely give praise to Kadosh Baruch Hu on both of these beneficial things. That he took Haman and he hung him on the gallows. And Mordecai was ridden on the horse of the king and became the viceroy to King Achashverosh. A person can do that before he's drunk. Al Kain Amru Chazal Shelo Yavsi Nilitain Shavach Al Beh Besimka. A person should not stop from giving praises to Kadosh Baruch Hu this in a joyous way, until she givol yedei kach until he comes to the situation, shelo yavchin oid ma bein toiva zu lezu. What's the difference between this toiv or this toiv? So we'll have to stop, right? This is what we're going to try and pick up tomorrow, because this is, I think, the key in understanding what we're trying to achieve on Purim, what Chazal had in mind for us to try and achieve on Purim. What, again, that shear, that amount of wine that we have to drink, we have to try and drink that
How
amount.
much the shear is.
Yeah.
That's the whole story. That's the other shear.
Exactly. That's very good. I think that's a very understandable explanation. Everyone has their own share. Chazal couldn't say you have to drink 4 courses, 4 cups, 3 cups, 10 cups, 2 bottles. They couldn't say that because what 2 bottles will do for one person won't do anything for another person, maybe, right? So they said you have to drink until you add, right? Shelo yavchin oid ma bein toiva lezu. Those are the key words. You have to understand what that means. Okay, and that's what you're trying to achieve. If we know what we're trying to achieve, right, then we have a hope of achieving it. But if you just, I'm just drinking and drinking and drinking until you get drunk, well, that's that exactly. What's the difference?